Ink-a-dink, 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 ink-a-dink. Wow!
Hold on. Hold on, Basil. I'll be there in a second. I know you were looking at me kind of funny the last show. Like on Friday night show, you were giving me kind of an odd look, and I'm not quite sure why. But now I realize. Now I realize. Okay. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to wear this so Basil can see me. This is Walter's birthday balloon, by the way. Walter's birthday balloon, and it lost its helium, so it's lost some of its appeal for Walter. But Walter's birthday was on April 1st, and you had your week off, Walter. You had your holiday week off. Would you mind coming back and doing a little dusting? Here, if I put you up there, say hi to Lil. Maybe you could dust off the calico stone. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Say hi to Lil. Yep, that's right. That's Lil. Okay. Okay, Basil, if I tilt you a little bit, maybe you can see me now. Okay, there. Okay. Walter, you gonna do a little dusting? Walter dusted off the cat and that phone, and dusted off Lil, and dusted off the Nickelodeon phone. Took about 40 seconds, and that's Walter's 40-second work week at Union scale. Take a break, Walter. Walter's taking a break already. Blessed Sunday morning to you. Welcome to Basil BuddhaCat Presents. I'm David Stevenson. I'm Basil's co-host, interpreter, and chief gopher. And it was a rub, not a scratch or a pick. So on Friday night, we had, and maybe, hold on, Dr. Paul? Hey, hung around. Okay. Still there? Okay. Okay, now you know that on Friday night you were pretty pleased by the fact that Basil complimented you on your position on ending warrantless wiretapping, which whether you want to admit it or not, President Obama put under more strict scrutiny when he took office. And it's secret. They can't tell you what they're not doing because they don't want to give away to the enemy what they're not doing as well as what they're doing. But so he put it under stricter scrutiny. And then we had the event where Edward Snowden, let's just say, spilled the beans on the NSA and some of the stuff they were doing, and that they were wiretapping people not just outside the United States, but also inside the United States. And he knew about it. And frankly, there's no evidence that President Obama knew about it, because this is the kind of thing that, this is a shadow government, what the national security agencies turned into. It's a shadow government. It does stuff. It answers to no one. And Dr. Paul, in his speech, said that he, on his first day in office, would do whatever it takes to end warrantless wiretapping. And I guess he meant executive order, because he's not going to get that through Congress, probably, by any chance or any stretch of the imagination. So I guess he's going to use one of those executive orders that he's so critical of President Obama for using to do stuff that Dr. Rand Paul doesn't want to have happen. immigration and on some of the other things that President Obama has used, the power of the executive order that every president's used, and it's perfectly legal, perfectly constitutional, which is why the Republicans can't seem to get any traction with stopping him, because it's completely constitutional. The power of the executive branch to put orders out there. Now, here's the thing, and those of you that saw the movie Lincoln, and I hope you did, and if you didn't, I want you to go out and get it. And Basil and I and Kristen, we watched that movie 3 times. Fascinating movie. And the movie talked about, if you haven't seen it, about the fact that Lincoln had ordered essentially an executive proclamation in the form of the Gettysburg Address, and ending slavery and freeing the slaves. That was an executive order. That was a proclamation, Emancipation Proclamation, and proclamations are the equivalent of executive orders. And Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which ended slavery. Problem was that these things only ride out the time that president that puts them out, that does these executive orders or proclamations, those things don't live beyond their presidency. So Lincoln knew that. Lincoln knew that one day there'd be another president. He didn't know quite how quickly that would happen. And as you know, it was April 1865, and today's, it's the anniversary of the day after Lincoln died, the day after Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. And that was yesterday. Yesterday was the anniversary of that. 150 years ago, the 150th anniversary of the day after President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, which makes yesterday the 150th anniversary of. Basil says you're confusing things a little. Well, he said you're confusing things. It was actually the signing of the end of the Civil War was near, and went quite accidentally. That's a show, I guess, F Troop. Can we say F Troop on television? I mean, you don't think the F and F Troop stood for, you don't think it stood for, okay, there we go. Troop. Or if they had been a regiment, a bigger group of cavalry soldiers, it would have been troop. You don't think it stands for that? Okay. Basil says he's not into military procedure that much. He really can't comment on that. But we don't need to use this. No. So Basil says he wants to remind people about how the proclamation, it did not and would not survive the term in office of the president who issued it. So that's why Lincoln worked for a constitutional amendment and did a lot of horse trading and had a very difficult time getting this amendment to the Constitution, which officially freed the slaves, which became codified as law and could not be undone except by a follow-up constitutional amendment to undo it. The same way that prohibition was done by an amendment, and then undoing prohibition of alcohol was redone. Alcohol was brought back in as being legal by a follow-up constitutional amendment. Okay, ending prohibition. So, there you have it. Whatever we were talking about, there you have it. So Lincoln knew that prohibition, Lincoln knew that slavery could only be permanently undone and ended by a constitutional amendment. Did a lot of horse trading, Probably a lot of those horses were delivering Budweiser beer to members of Congress, getting them sufficiently drunk to vote for the constitutional amendment and send it out for ratification. And that's it. So there you go. That's what happened. Oh, back to Dr. Rand Paul, who gave a speech, and we were talking about that Friday night, and gave a speech where he announced he was running for president, and Basil liked a couple things he said. Basil liked the mention of the Dr. Paul's willingness to end warrantless wiretapping by whatever means necessary, including I guess a presidential edict, we'll call it, which presidents are allowed to do. Proclamation, whatever that third word was. And he's willing to do that. And Basil says that's a good thing. That's borrowed straight from what liberals believe, and in fact, it makes for some very strong bonds between liberals and libertarians. He also liked the business about marijuana, about Dr. Paul, as libertarians are wont to do, recognize that prisons are stuffed full of kids, and he makes a very clear reference to the fact that the majority of those kids that are in prison are black. And Dr. Paul there may be a little gratuitous reach out to the black community in that, but it's, you know what, we can't judge him, we can't judge his motivation, we can only judge his words and his acts, and the fact that he believes that the prisons are filled up with youthful offenders, mostly black, for marijuana possession, that needs to end. And the best way to end that would be to decriminalize marijuana. And libertarians, liberals, right together on that. Basil, Dr. Rand Paul, side by side, agree with that. While we were away, and actually it happened before we were away, but while we were away, the letters in C. Rand Paul, book by the same name apparently, were rearranged. And I guess there's a reference in their rearrangement to this sign that we found in front of Basil. This area open to bow hunting only. Permit required. Firearms prohibited. And in Brookfield, bow hunting. They have bow hunting, and the bow hunters go up in trees. No guns allowed. It's bow hunting only. They go up in trees, and they people would say, and Basil and I will tend to agree, because overpopulation is a serious problem with deer. Mercifully end the lives of a certain number of deer in order to bring the population down, and they do it using bows. And by bow hunters going up in trees and waiting for a deer to come underneath and zing down, and quick, easy, hopefully not too painful, but no danger to people, because there's not going to be anybody walking alongside the deer that might accidentally get hit. So there you go. So here you go. Here's another C. Rand Paul has become USA Deer Plan. There you go. Perfect. Okay. So that's Basil's nodding his head, and he's also saying Sunday morning's not free either. I'll quote him. Says Sunday morning's not free either. You got to do some ads, and we will. Okay, let's do our customary ads. Schweppes, Schweppervescence. One of Basil's sodas of choice is Basil's ginger ale, and in this case, Basil's lemon lime sparkling seltzer water of choice. P-A-N-W root beer. It's that extra letter, that extra P that gives it a zing. Hasn't got the sparkle of a Schweppes, but it's got a zingy taste. It's got a marvelous taste. It's the extra letter that does it, and proof again, proof that it's Basil's root beer of choice. Hey, sweetness.
Hey, baby kids.
It's Basil's root beer of choice. Look in his litter pan. Let's see. We don't have... Do we have the account yet, Basil? We're trying to get, of course, the Budweiser account away from the National Football League because apparently Budweiser's not extremely thrilled about football players drinking their product and then going out and beating up their girlfriend, dragging them by the hair out of an elevator, and also whipping their kids with tree branches. So Budweiser's kind of on the outs with the NFL, and we're trying to lure them away. And the best way to do that is for Basil to remind everyone in his audience that Budweiser beer, Basil's beer of choice, and again, just like with Tootsie Roll. And did I get the actual Tootsie Roll? Just like with Tootsie Roll, Budweiser can be found. It was a rub, not a scratch or a pick. Can be found in Basil's litter pan. That enough commercials? Okay, hold on. Cinco de Mayo on its way soon. And at Cinco de Mayo, we're going to forget that there's a beer named Corona that Mexicans like to drink during Independence Day. We're going to see to it, if Budweiser pays us enough money, we're going to see to it that Budweiser beer takes the place of Corona in the hearts of Mexicans. Okay, and Piggy agrees with that. We're going to get our neighbors south of the border on the Budweiser train. Oh, that's another one. Coors, the Silver Bullet. No. Forget I said that. It's not the Silver Bullet. It's not Corona. The beer of choice for Cinco de Mayo is going to be Budweiser. Okay, now.
Don't rewash these.
Okay. The letters have... C. Rand Paul has become a new... Yeah, we had... so far we've had Dr. E-please. Nice sounding, and as Marty Heiser would say, because Marty probably has some respect for Rand Paul. Marty's a Republican, so if Rand Paul's a candidate, Marty probably will support him, I think. Marty Heiser's famous line, and we're going to shout out to you, Marty, up in the hammock. These wonderful lines, Dr. E-please, and USA Deer Plan, say it all. And even though they sound like butterflies flying out of our ass, yep, that's what he says. Those lines are like butterflies flying out of the ass of America. There's some good things to be said for Rand Paul from the Republicans. But in the meanwhile, we ended up with another rearrangement of the letters, and it comes out as pawn dealers. Now that doesn't sound like butterflies flying out of anybody's arse. That sounds like kind of a rough, if people that are supporters of Rand Paul, or even Rand Paul himself, if he's a pawn dealer, that doesn't have a very good connotation to it. Doesn't have much cachet to it, does it? But there it is. Okay. Point. Oh, more butterflies flying out of the ass of America, or the arse, if you will, of America. Thank you, Marty, again. And again, Senator Rand Paul, very proficient on the internet, and understands that That's how you get people voting for you, is by putting the word out on the internet. It's less expensive. It's more encompassing. More people see it than. I mean, who watches television anymore? We don't watch television. We get the Hulu and we get the Netflix and we watch shows pretty much without commercials. And there you go. So commercials on TV. What is television anymore? But commercials on the internet, big stuff. Okay. So here's another one that shows you how great Senator Rand Paul is. Not Ron Paul, he's pretty great too, but see how great Senator Rand Paul is. Now it's become Pandas Rule. So who could not love pandas? Who could find anything objectionable about pandas? Pandas are like the greatest animals ever. They are so cool. They're cute. They're cuddly. They like to they'd like to do everything apparently except mate a lot. Unfortunately, so we're trying to stir them on in the Washington Zoo and the San Diego Zoo, and the Chinese have their pandas, and they're working on them, getting them to reproduce so that we have more pandas hanging around forever. And Pandas Rule. There you go. That's warm and fuzzy, eh? Okay. Oh, hold on. And a blessed Sunday morning to you. Basil BuddhaCat presents Tweety. Oh, Tweety. Tweety and Snarky are both with a paw, left paw up. That means it is Rand Paul calling in again. He says thanks again. Okay. Says thank you very much for the kind words. Now you can end the show and ignore the unkind words about pawn dealers. He's not a pawn dealer. Never has been, never was. Don't look behind the curtain. Don't ask Marty Heiser. Okay, hold on. We're going to... Oh. He wants us to end the show, so we hung up. And just like that, my goodness, we went from Dr. E. Please to E. Pander Saul to USA Deer Plan to Pure E. Slander to E. Pandas Rule. Oh. Then back up and do that again. Dr. E. Please to E. Pander Saul to USA Deer Plan to pawn dealers to E. Pandas Rule. And one more. Pure E. Not slander, but Pure E hyphen slander. And I guess that's the reference to a lot of black people that think he spoke in front of them. He went to the NCAA convention. He spoke. He reached out. He did something that no other Republicans done since back in the day when Republicans were the guys that actually passed the Voting Rights Act and sent it to President Lyndon Johnson's desk to sign, and he signed it. And back in the days of good Republicans. So, but now we do not have good Republicans. We have Republicans that are doing everything they can to slander or slander black people. And proof of that apparently is in the change from C. Rand Paul, the novel, the biography, soon to be the biopic, to Pure E. Slander. Okay. Comments, Basil? Basil says he's still thinking about this sign down here. This area open to bow hunting only. And he's okay with that. He's okay. You know, doesn't like... Everybody loves Bambi. Nobody wants to see Bambi killed, but we recognize that first of all, the deer population is way over what it should be. And at some point, we'll have not a meltdown, but we'll have a huge die-off of deer if we don't thin the population out. Also, the soup kitchen gets the deer meat from when the bow hunters kill the deer. And they only take out adults. They don't take out any babies, so it's not Bambi getting killed. It's Bambi's aunt and uncle and mom and dad, and and the deer meat is taken to a soup kitchen, so it feeds the hungry. That about does it, huh? Okay. One more thing. Oh, in the middle of C. Rand Paul. It's back to being C. Rand Paul. But right in the center of Rand Paul is the D and the P. The D from Rand and the P from Paul. And they've mysteriously separated from the appropriate words they were in and gone together as DP. What's baseball season? Double play. Basil said, no, DP as in duplicitous. He's trying to be all things to all people. He's trying to be the liberal to the liberals. He's trying to be the blacks to the blacks. He's trying to be the old white folks to the old white folks. And that's a huge... President Lincoln said, you can please some of the people, you can fool some of the people all the time, you can fool all the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time by being duplicitous. And with that, blessed Sunday. This has been Basil BuddhaCat Presents. I'm David Stevenson, Basil's co-host, interpreter-in-chief gopher, and we'll see you again Friday night. Can I take my tie off now? Okay.
They say they'd rob your grandma blind on Wall Street, fritter her away her Medicare on Wall Street. And Pharma Oil and their pet fox don't care if she lives in a box, so long as they wear platinum jocks on Wall Street, Meow.